Have you ever seen a musician play a song that you already know, but it sounds completely different? And to make matters confusing, when you see them play it, it's. Have you ever seen a musician play a song that you already know, but it sounds so much better? And to make matters confusing, when you see them play it, they're playing it completely differently. They're using chords that you never even knew existed. It's confusing. It's frightening. And it's frustrating because it feels like there's a mountain to climb. There's all this knowledge out there and you have no idea where to start. And that is because there are many ways to play a song and there's many different ways to play the same chord. And that's why this lesson is an absolute gem. And I think you're going to get a lot from it because we're going to look at 5 different variations to play the same thing. Alright, we're going to look at bluesy. We're going to look at even more bluesy. We're going to look at jazzy. We're going to look at jazzy bluesy. And then we're going to look at downright funky. Alright, so there's lots to get away from this. And it's so much fun to have all this knowledge at your disposal because you can play things completely differently. You can take a chord progression you already know and you can spice it up with these new chord shapes. So please make sure you stick around and you see all the different chord shapes there are because if you do, you'll definitely take something away from this and it might just change the way that you actually play the guitar. So what we're going to do to make this really practical is we're going to take the same chord progression and play it 5 different times using different chord shapes. And we're going to use a 1-4-5 progression in the key of E, meaning we're going to use an E chord, an A chord, and a B chord. Okay, and we're going to play an 8-bar blues. So we're going to do E for 2 bars. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. A for 1 bar. 3. Back to E for 1 bar. And then a B. An A. An E. And a B. Alright, and that's 8 bars in total. So, the first thing we're going to do, the first level, is to make them 7 chords. Open 7 chords. So, for an E, I just take my 3rd finger off. Becomes an E7. For an A, again, I take my middle finger off. That becomes an A7. And for a B, we can just go into the standard B7 shape that we have here. Now, you can put your pinky on the high E. I tend to not do that because I just like the way it sounds. Anyways, we have our 3 chords. Alright, so let's play the 8 bars using the 7 chords. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to E. 3, 4. A B. An A. An E. And a B. Alright, now moving on to the second level. What we're going to do is we're going to take this chord shape, the B7, and if you note that the B note is the root note here, right, on the 2nd fret. If I move that root note to the 7th fret, which is the E note, that becomes an E7. Alright? And if I take the E7 shape, with the root on the low E string being the E, alright, if I move that root note to the 5th fret, play the same E7 shape, that becomes an A7, right, because that's the E note. If I move that up another 2 frets to the 7th fret, that's the B note, so this becomes a B7. Now, so that the chord progression sounds a little bit different this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dissect these shapes and create a triad inversion out of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the D, the G and the B, right? And I'm going to see where are my fingers on those chords. They are 5, 6, 5. Alright? Which means I can use this shape, the D shape, 5, 6, 5, not the D shape, A, D shape, alright, except I'm not in the bottom string, I'm one string up. So I've got 5 from the D, 6 in the G, and 5 in the B. And that's me just taking 3 notes from this chord, alright? So it's a triad inversion of an A7. And it's quite cool if I slide into that. I can do the same thing with a B7 chord. I can take the D and the G and the B from that. And I've got, again, this, 7, 8, 7. Alright, and I've got a B7. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the same 8 bars. But this time, when I'm playing my A7 and B7, I'm going to do half a bar, 1, 2, 3, 4, and half of it in the triad shape, 1, 2, 3, 4. So hopefully you'll get what I mean. So let's go over the full 8 bars. Alright, so I'm going to use my E7 shape here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and B. A. E. 2, 3, 4 and B. And then back to E again, right? So hopefully you got that. E, A, B. Alright, so for the next progression, we're going to look at that A7 chord, right? And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to use the cage system, which is moving these chord shapes around to make different chords. If I move this, again taking the root note on the E in the 7th fret here, I've got an E7. So using this A note, the A string, I can do an E7 like this, or I can do an E7 like this. Alright? And then I could do an A7. I could do a B7 here, using the B note on the A root. But that's going to sound very similar to my first one. So what I'm going to do to spice that up is I'm going to turn these into major 7 chords, which gives it a real jazzy feel. And all you need to do that is to add your middle finger there, right? So an A7, like this, you put your middle finger on the G here, alright, in the 1st fret. And moving that up to the 7th fret, I've got an E major 7. So I've got E major 7, A major 7, and then moving that, well, I'm rooting the bar in the 2nd fret, becomes a B major 7. So let's do the 8 bars using those major 7 shapes. So an E major 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. A major 7. Back to E. Feeling jazzy. Yeah. B. 2, 3. A. E. B. So if that's too happy for some folk, too jazzy, then what we can do to make that even bluesier is do minor 7 chords. Alright, so again, taking that root here on the A string, I find my E note. All I need to do, if I take an A minor shape, right, and take my pinky off, that gives me the minor, A minor shape, alright? And again, if I move that to the E note, I've got an E minor 7. Alright, another way to play a minor 7, if I use the E string for my root, my A note's here, I can do an A minor chord and take my pinky off. I've got an A minor 7. I can do the same thing for the B. And then I'm going to have a real Thrill Is Gone, BB King kind of vibe. Alright, so let's do that for the 8 bars. So again, starting the E. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. To my A. 2, 3. To E. 2, 3. B. To A. To E. Alright, and that is the minor 7 variation. Alright, now to finish it off, we're going to look at some funky variations. Alright, and that's going to start again with this root note on the A. Alright, we're going to take an E and we're going to turn that into an E9. Now what I'm doing here is I'm barring the bottom 3 strings with my third finger, and I've got my middle finger on the 7, on the A. Okay, you can also have your first finger on the 6 and the D here, but I tend to mute that with this, with my middle finger. But either way is fine. Alright, so if you look at this chord, that gives us a real funky vibe, and we can use our pinky here on the 9th fret to create some cool little things. Alright, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my A7 chord here, using the E root, and I'm going to use my pinky on the B string on the 8th and 7th fret to create some little funky licks there. Alright, and I'll do the same with the B. And then I might use a B here because I've got the B root note here. Alright, on the 14th fret. And I can use that to finish it off. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, and there you have it, there's some funk. So I hope you've taken a lot away from that. If you did, let me know in the comments, let me know what you think, what's your favourite type of chord. Anyways, take it easy guys, and I'll see you soon with the next lesson.